just like in the previous level, if you are listening to this one, hopefully you have listened to and have taken the time to integrate the 2 other levels that came before this one. This inquiry continues, building on the other 2, so please make sure that you're feeling stable with your insight and the material before you're continuing with this one. As always, take a moment to settle in, get comfortable and take a few deep breaths. Feel how the body is falling into gravity. And settle your awareness in the present moment. At this point, you might find that the wants that have seemed so all important have already dissolved. But this whole experience with the awakening curriculum, it is an invitation to awaken, as well as to work with beliefs and wants. So let's continue. Can you recall one of the stories around what you think will happen with one of your wants? So what you want is to earn a law degree. What immediately tells you how much better your life will be once you have it? Do you see how the moment that story arises, you have been swept out of the now into the thoughts, into an imaginary future? You're in some sort of limbo, existing neither fully in the present nor fully in the imagination. The body is here, but the mind is entirely distracted and distanced from life in this illusory time period. That was what we worked with in the previous 2 levels. So now let's build on those inquiries. So continue to hold the story about your fulfilled future. And while you're maintaining that vision, I want you to come back into the body to check in, to see how it feels now. In your direct experience, is there any connection at all between the body and the thing that you want? Is the body able to grasp the want or the event? Do the sensations that you're feeling know anything at all about the future or the object of your desire? What connection are you imagining that they have? And recognize that it must be imaginary if you can't find one. I would like for you now to separate the sensory experience in the body and hold it to one side, while keeping whatever thoughts you have to the other side. Can you now, in a manner of speaking, lift the thought story off the bodily sensations? If you found that there was no connection between them, then that should be fairly easy. You're simply keeping your attention on the sensations, while the stories, your assumptions about what will happen, are able to drift away like the short-lived, empty things that they really are. Now notice, do you feel like thought keeps pulling you back out of the sensation in the body and up into your head? Is there an inherent push-pull, keeping you in a state of tension where you can't just remain with the sensations in the rawest experience? Do you feel like there are labels about the sensations in the body that seems real in a way that transcends concepts? Sometimes we feel like we have gotten to an emotion that is bedrock and can't be questioned any further, like the feeling of fear about some undefined negative event that is going to happen in the future if we're not careful. If you're feeling a state that you label as fearful or excited or even blissful, can you tell what the corresponding emotion is without the mind pitching in thoughts about it, labeling it, and creating a whole narrative around it. Without the label, how can you tell that the sensations in your body are fearful or excited or anything else? Aren't they simply unnamed sensations that happen to be appearing in this moment? If you were an infant without any language, would you still instantly know what emotion you were experiencing? So if the mind needs to recognize and label a sensation for it to be understood and experienced as an emotion, are those two things, bodily sensations and thoughts, in any way directly connected? You might make up more thought stories about how one always seems to follow the other or vice versa. But where's the found connection? So now, holding the emotions separate from the sensations, can you still find the original want? Where did it go? We aren't just redefining the word. We're showing that the entire feeling of wanting something is only a mirage. The same way that a person dying of thirst in the desert will interpret shimmering heat lines as an oasis filled with water, we subconsciously take in the bodily sensations and the flow of thoughts and incorrectly misinterpret that information as feelings of wanting or not wanting, or even being a me, a self. The constituent parts are relatively real in their own ways, but they are being misinterpreted and believed to be something that they are simply not. So in your current experience, what does it mean to want something? Are you describing a discomfort in the body? A thought about how nice that crunchy apple might taste right now? A projection of how good you will feel when every person you know is envious of your promotion or new car or awakened state? When all this is the experience of wanting something, in all the dissection we've done, have you found it anywhere? When this experience is seen as a mirage and it starts to fall away, a sense of peaceful contentment often takes the place of the previous turbulent unease. Can you feel that contentment when the world is simply left to be the world just as it is? If the need to recenter or smooth out life drops away, all that is left is contentment with absolutely everything that arises. Why would it be otherwise? How can it be otherwise? Next, pay more attention to the felt experience. Does it seem that physical sensations are static and always the same? Like every time you get a migraine or feel anxious, do you assume that it is exactly like every other time you have had it? Now place your awareness on the sensation as closely as possible right now. Do you notice that whichever sensations you are feeling in this moment, they keep changing and morphing from one pattern to another? They might get stronger or less intense. They might move and shift location. You might even notice that what once was taken as a static phenomena starts to feel more like clouds of effervescence and murmurations of starlings or even smoke rolling in the air. Can you find anything called craving or wanting in those sensations? If you feel like there's something there, then strip off the verbal label and see what is actually being felt underneath it. wanting, and craving are only human-made labels. Again, with no thought, claiming to be the urge to have something we don't have, all we are left with is sensation that had no discernible connection to anything that resides in the imagination. So when you assume that every time you have a feeling of indignation about something you heard on the news or a stomach ache after a large meal, let the assumptions go and tune into your experience in a fresh way to see what is actually being experienced completely raw and unfiltered right now. When you disconnect the thoughts and assumptions about what is happening from your experience of what is happening, the sensations are free to come and go, expand and contract, and wink in and out of existence. And again, check in to see if that feeling of equanimous contentment has been revealed. While you observe sensations in the body, notice that there are no one moving in these sensations. Does it seem like you're doing anything? Are you making the sensations change in any way? Are they just moving and being witnessed? Now look closer. Are they being witnessed? Where in your experience can you find a witness witnessing? Does it seem like you are observing the sensations? If so, notice where it feels like you are looking from. If the sensations are in your belly, are you looking down at your belly from a higher vantage point? Often people feel like they're looking down from somewhere behind their eyes. If that is the case, what gives you the indication that you are in there observing? Close your eyes for a second if they're not closed. And then I would like for you to picture the sensations happening in your belly. Can your eyes actually see inside your belly? Clearly not. So isn't it just a mental image that is popping up, giving the impression that the sensations are being seen or felt from above? When your eyes are closed, all we are seeing are thoughts. Now tune into the sensations behind the eyes. Can you find an actual observer there? Can you find anything other than sensations like pressure or tightness or dull ache? Should you assume that any of those sensations are actually you? Or can you just let them be there without the added assumption, the misguided label that you reside there? Now open your eyes. Look down at your belly. Does it still feel like you are looking down from above? Is it possible to see your belly not from the vantage point of above, but like it is simply appearing before you? What is appearing in front of your eyes is always flatly appearing in front of you. There's no indication that the image is the right side up, upside down, crooked, or anything else. The brain is using proprioception and many other calculations based on very subtle senses to create the impression that you are looking down from above. But in reality, you are simply seeing. There's simply seeing happening. Something is appearing in your vision, and it has no perspective inherent in its appearance. If you find it difficult to make sense of it, it's perfectly fine. Don't force anything. Just make note of it and let go. It is a seed that might sprout at some unexpected point. Do you remember how I said that when your eyes are closed, all we see are thoughts? Well, when our eyes are open, these are still only thoughts. You cannot see anything outside of you. You're always seeing the brain's best guess as to what is outside of you based on all the electrical information coming from the sense organs. But what you experience is purely your own reality, shaped by your preconceptions, past history, and layer after layer of unquestioned assumptions. So peeling every thought away leaves you in a place where you can see your experience in the barest possible sense. There's no more real than anyone else's view because it is still structured by your brain, but without the mind adding even more noise to the signal. You can recognize some of the ways in which you might have been interacting with an emotional mirage. Again, don't take for granted that you are experiencing is something called wanting or craving. Remember to look in your direct experience to see if it can truly be found. What is it that we're instantly interpreting as craving? And can it have any bearing on our actions? What does it actually do? As you get up and move about your day, keep noticing that there are sensations which can easily be separated from the thought labels that seems to arrive with them. And as you stay with them, notice that the sensations move, but there's only movement happening. No one is moving with the sensations or causing the sensations to move. Experience is happening, but there's no observer or experiencer of the experience. If it feels like there is, then stop what you're doing and look for what in your body or mind right now, this moment, is being sensed and mistaken for an observer. Is it a physical sensation? A mental image? Something else? Is there anything but the sensory experience? Really allow the senses to overwhelm the feeling of being an observer. Let the colors and sounds and bodily sensations swell and drown the illusion that there must be something separate from them, that there must be a seer, a hearer, a thinker, a feeler, in order to experience all of this beauty. And it's okay to feel it as beauty. Just allowing the sense fields to be without creating an artificial distance from them can make all of the movements feel incredibly beautiful. You might feel rapturous or start to cry at the loveliness of everything. If crying happens, it's just crying happening. If bliss happens, it's just an emotional weather pattern moving through the body, experienced as bliss. And if nothing at all happens, it is nothing to get upset about or feel let down about. It doesn't mean that you are defective or not worthy or hopeless or any of the other thoughts that often arise from expectations and our ludicrous habits of comparing our experience to others. So whatever arises, it doesn't mean anything. It simply is. If nothing exciting or special arises, how wonderful is that? It is exactly the same and has the same valueless value as all of the peak experiences we hear about and long for. If you do find yourself resisting what is here right now or wanting something else, you have all the tools to use to come back to what is here right now. Discover what is making this moment so unsatisfying or even unbearable. What is making you discontent? And sit with it. Sit in the gap. And find out if you need to do anything right now, or if you can simply stay with the sensations as they arise and as they fall away. Take a deep breath. Well done. We're about to finish, and I would recommend you to take time in your everyday life to stop whenever you catch yourself in a want. Separate the thought from the body and notice how the thoughts drift away. See if you can live more of your life from this space of ever-present contentment. Contentment with whatever arises, regardless of how the moment shows itself. This contentment is not contingent or dependent upon anything. It can be there through injury or celebration, through pain or delight. Experience without labels allows everything to be deeply and profoundly okay. The more you practice inquiry in your everyday life, the more it will become an integrated part of you. The more you will dismantle the content of a thought from your perceived reality and bring your focus into the body and the movement of the senses, the more clearly you will see how things actually are. And as you continue living in this direct, content way of being, don't be surprised if life starts to take on a feeling of connectedness. Because as we have just started to explore, there's nothing separating you from experience. But we will go into that more deeply when we discuss the sixth fetter. So for now, take a deep breath. Open your eyes and shake your body.